So you found a clean-looking BMW E36 on the marketplace and you are ready to hand over your cash. But before you do, stop right there, because we need to talk about the ticking time bombs hiding under that hood. I love the E36 platform. It is arguably one of the best chassis BMW ever made. But if you go into this blind, your wallet is going to hate you. The absolute number one thing that kills these cars isn't high mileage, it is the cooling system. BMW built these cars with a lot of plastic in the engine bay, and after 30 years of heat cycles, that plastic turns brittle like glass. The water pump from the factory came with a plastic impeller, and what happens is that impeller shatters, the coolant stops flowing, the engine overheats, and boom, you have warped the aluminum cylinder head. When you buy one of these, unless the seller has a receipt proving they did it last week, you need to budget for a complete cooling system overhaul immediately. I am talking about a new radiator, a new water pump with a metal impeller, a new thermostat, and most importantly, the thermostat housing itself, because that plastic housing loves to crack and leak coolant all over your belts. While you're under the hood, take a flashlight and look at the side of the engine block, specifically around the valve cover gasket. The M50 and M52 engines are tilted, so when that gasket fails, and it will fail, oil drips right onto the exhaust manifolds. If you smell burning oil when you stop at a traffic light, that is your culprit. It is not a hard fix, just a bit messy. Speaking of oil, check the oil filter housing gasket too, because when that leaks, it coats the entire underside of the engine in sludge. Now let's talk about the scary stuff, the stuff that makes mechanics sweat, the rear subframe. This is the structural flaw of the E36. The mounting points where the rear suspension bolts to the chassis are notorious for tearing right out of the sheet metal, especially if the car has been driven hard or has a stiffer aftermarket suspension. You need to get under the car and look for stress cracks around those mounting points. If you see cracks, you're looking at a major welding job to reinforce the floor. If you buy one, installing reinforcement plates is practically mandatory if you plan to drive it like a BMW is meant to be driven. Suspension bushings are another wear item you cannot ignore. The rear trailing arm bushings, or RTABs, dictate how the rear of the car handles. If they're worn out, the car will feel like it is steering itself from the rear when you accelerate or brake, which is terrifying in the rain. Front control arm bushings and ball joints are likely toast too if they haven't been changed. Do not just look at the mechanicals though, you have to look for rust. Check the jacking points under the side skirts. Water gets trapped there and rots the rocker panels from the inside out. Check the bottom of the doors and the edges of the trunk lid. Inside the car, it is a whole other battle. The door panels on the E36 are infamous. BMW used a glue that gives up after a few decades, so the vinyl bubbles and separates, or the plastic clips break and the whole panel hangs loose. The headliner is almost guaranteed to be sagging unless it has been redone. And the windows? Oh man, the windows. The regulators bend, the plastic sliders break, and the motor gears strip. If you press the button and hear a crunching noise, congratulations, you have a Saturday project ahead of you. Also, check the onboard computer, the OBC. It's common for the pixels to die, so you can't read the display, or the backlight bulbs to burn out. If you're looking at a manual transmission model, which you should be, pay attention to how the shifter feels. If it feels like you're stirring a bowl of soup and there is zero precision, your shifter bushings are gone. It's a cheap fix parts-wise, but getting to the linkage is a pain. Another thing with the manual gearbox is the fifth gear lean. Sometimes when the transmission is cold, the shifter rests over towards fifth gear instead of centering under third. That is caused by sticky detent pins inside the transmission. It won't stop the car from driving, but it is annoying. Let's touch on the Vanos system if you're looking at a later model year. That's BMW's variable valve timing. The seals inside the Vanos unit harden and fail, causing a loss of low-end torque and a distinct rattling sound that sounds like marbles in a tin can. A rebuilt Vanos unit restores that power, so listen for that rattle at idle. Finally, look at the power steering lines. The reservoir uses a simple hose clamp system that always leaks. The hoses sweat power steering fluid, and it makes a mess of the steering rack. Basically, when you buy an E36, you're buying a project, even if it looks perfect. You need to be ready to get your hands dirty. But here's the secret. Once you fix the cooling system, reinforce the subframe, and refresh the suspension, you have one of the most rewarding analog driving experiences money can buy. It's just a matter of knowing what you're getting into so you don't end up with a lawn ornament.